episode 59, titled Counter Social Engineering with Behavior-Aware Defenses, we define social engineering as the point where adversary psychology meets an organization's habits and blind spots. Attackers do not need zero-day exploits when they can borrow your routines, your urgency, and your trust rhythms to move money or credentials. The counter is not a single tool. It is a set of repeatable behaviors that are easy to do on a busy day and leave evidence when they work. We will build those behaviors into email and messaging, approvals and money movement, help desk and admin workflows, collaboration platforms, and the way we run simulations and campaigns, so the safest action is also the default action when seconds feel scarce. Email remains the widest highway for social engineering, so we script defenses that people can do in 5 seconds. Reporting buttons route suspicious messages to triage with the full header attached, while banner queues flag messages that claim to be internal but arrived from the outside. Safe preview practices open attachments in a neutral viewer and expand links into full domains before any navigation. And quick confirmations ask the sender, through a verified, separate channel, whether the action is real. We measure success not by zero phishing, but by fast, consistent handling, reported within minutes, quarantined quickly, and responded to with a short note that teaches one thing the reporter did right. Over time, the inbox becomes a place where patterns are recognized and routed, not a place where surprises dictate behavior. Voice and text lures have matured, and defenders must treat calls and messages with the same skepticism they apply to email. Voice phishing, or vishing, leans on urgency and the authority of a confident tone. Short message service, spelled SMS, leans on brevity and links that look almost right. We institutionalize callback rules. No changes to payment instructions, credentials, or remote control installs proceed on the original channel. Instead, the employee calls back using a number from the corporate directory or an established vendor record. We maintain a list of verified numbers for high-risk partners and executives, and we document no surprise approvals so that any request arriving without a calendar invite and a ticket number is treated as suspect by default. This is not mistrust, it is standardized trust that makes sense at scale. Approvals and money movement deserve the highest friction because the blast radius of error is measured in real currency and customer impact. Dual control splits initiation and release across 2 identities with different reporting lines, and out-of-band verification confirms counterparty changes through a channel recorded in procurement or treasury records. Delay windows allow small amounts to move quickly, but force larger, unusual, or first-time transfers to wait long enough for a second review, flattening the attacker's urgency advantage. For contractors and wire updates, we require a vendor master change with supporting documentation, not an email thread. Every approval leaves an auditable artifact: who checked, what was verified, and which document matched, which is how you prove to customers and auditors that habits, not heroics, keep funds safe. Help desks and administrators are high-value targets because they can reset identity and widen access quickly. We train staff on identity proofing that relies on pre-enrolled factors, employee numbers, manager names, or recent ticket history, and we ban security questions whose answers live on social media. Reset scripts include mandatory steps and explicit stop conditions for odd requests, such as a user insisting on skipping multi-factor enrollment. Escalation paths are short and safe. If the story does not add up, the analyst can pause the request, notify the security channel, and hand off without fear of reprimand. Administrators receive the same training with an extra rule. No elevation happens from an unverified device or an unfamiliar network, period. And every elevation is recorded and reviewed. Collaboration platforms now hold the conversations and files that used to sit behind multiple gates, so we defend them with a similar seriousness. Invite policies define who can add guests and how long external access lasts before it expires. And link scrutiny keeps sharing to named people whenever business allows. We restrict external sharing on sensitive repositories and turn on content previews that display destinations before navigation, discouraging blind clicks. Administrators monitor for new apps, bots, or integrations that request permissions inconsistent with their stated purpose and require a ticketed review for anything that touches identity, messaging, or data export. The rule of thumb is simple. Convenience features are allowed when they leave a trail and obey the same identity checks as email and storage. Phishing simulations help, but they must be ethical and educational, or they slowly poison trust. We target realistic scenarios drawn from recent attacks. We disclose our program goals and policy, and we coach rather than shame. After each simulation, we send a short explainer with 2 takeaways: the specific cues that would have helped and the one habit that prevents this family of tricks. Managers receive aggregate results without naming and shaming individuals, while repeat clickers are invited to brief, supportive coaching that includes hands-on practice. Improvement over time is the metric, not a perfect score, because the objective is a resilient culture that recognizes patterns and follows the same verification script on a hectic Monday as on a quiet Friday. Just-in-time prompts slow down impulsive clicks and risky approvals exactly where mistakes happen. Before a user enters credentials on a site that does not match the organization's single sign-on domain, a browser extension or identity provider banner reminds them to check the address. Before a privileged approval, the workflow presents a concise checklist ticket, verified counterparty, callback completed, that requires a simple affirmation. These prompts are not walls, they are speed bumps that convert a fast yes into a considered yes, and they create small, time-stamped artifacts that prove the habit occurred. Over weeks, these micro-interventions change outcomes because even a 2-second pause is enough to reclaim attention from an attacker's script. Monitoring focuses attention where it yields the greatest learning and the most precise interventions. We track reporting rates, time to report, and the distribution of repeat clickers. And we compare departments not to rank them, but to find workflows that invite mistakes. If a team handles many invoices under deadline, we expect more temptation and install stronger prompts there. If a function onboards many vendors, we reinforce callback rules and dual control early. We publish a quarterly one-pager that shows what improved, what did not, and which habit we are emphasizing next. Transparency keeps morale high and makes it clear that the goal is organizational learning, not gotchas. Coordinating communications is part of defense because attackers mimic our voice to create cover. We standardize the look and timing of incident updates, name the internal channels we will use, and state plainly that we do not request credentials or remote control installs via email, chat, or SMS. Drills include a communications track that publishes a brief memo and a banner to the collaboration platform so employees recognize the pattern when something real happens. We maintain a small library of pre-approved messages, service interruptions, credential resets, vendor advisories, so we do not improvise under stress, and we rotate responsibility across leaders to avoid a single, easily impersonated voice. Clear, consistent messaging reduces the attack surface because it narrows what a real message looks like. Evidence matters because audits, customers, and executives ask for proof that habits exist beyond posters. We capture training completion with timestamps, simulation results with trend lines, and playbook adherence with short checklists attached to tickets. For high-risk events, vendor changes, payment releases, privileged approvals, we attach the callback record or out-of-band verification to the approval artifact. We summarize these into quarterly reports that show improvement and identify stubborn friction points. Then we use those reports to select the next behavior campaign. Evidence is not paperwork for its own sake. It is how we maintain credibility and keep investment flowing into the habits that demonstrably reduce risk. A near miss can be the best teacher when handled without blame. Imagine an accounts payable specialist receives a convincing invoice update from a known supplier with a new bank account. The specialist follows the habit, uses the vendor master number to call back, discovers the request is fraudulent, reports the message with the button, and attaches the callback note to the ticket. Security publishes a short, de-identified write-up. The lure used authority and urgency, the counter habit was the callback rule, and the safeguard we improved was adding a just-in-time prompt in the invoice workflow. The specialist receives recognition, the behavior is reinforced, and the entire team learns a specific cue they can reuse tomorrow. We close by directing a targeted 30-day campaign that turns one high-risk behavior into a measurable win. Choose a single behavior, out-of-band verification for any bank detail change, or a 2-second address check before entering credentials, and instrument it with a clear success metric, such as percentage of verified vendor changes or reduction in credential entry on non-approved domains. Publish a 1-paragraph playbook, add a just-in-time prompt where the behavior happens, and brief managers to model the habit. Midway, share progress with 1 sentence and 1 chart. At the end, report the before-after numbers and keep the prompt if it paid for itself. Then pick the next behavior. Small, focused campaigns, measured honestly, turn adversary psychology into opportunities to install stronger organizational habits. Thanks for listening. For more audio courses, daily newsletters, and more, please visit baremetalcyber.com.